Welcome to Gen Z Hoops, the Gen Z basketball, coaching, and sports business show. On this podcast, you'll learn from professional players, coaches, and executives from all over the world and see the court in a brand new way. And now, joining you courtside, your Gen Z host, John Hartofilis.
Jason, what's going on?
All right, good to see you, John.
Good to see you too. It's definitely a lot of fun having you on, having met you before at Xavier Camp, but of course, right now we're really formally maybe meeting each other over Zoom in the setting right for the show, which is definitely a lot of fun. But you've definitely done some really cool things in the basketball world, definitely, especially in New York City, right? Many would call the Mecca of basketball. So it's definitely fun having you on to kind of shed some light on all that.
Yes, and great to see it come full circle from speaking at the camps at Xavier and now being able to be on your podcast.
So if you could bring us back to maybe where it all started, maybe that your passion for basketball. I would imagine it was well before college, but then right leading into a great college career, leading your college in assists maybe, and having the basketball behind you. If for our listeners that can watch it, that aren't listening, that can actually see the background that you have. I mean, tell us a little about maybe what that looked like, maybe if on the playing side of you growing up and falling in love with the game.
Yeah, so I mean, like a lot of inner city kids, I grew up playing basketball at a young age. Actually, my first favorite sport was really baseball, but I was always playing basketball. I mean, literally from the time I was born, there's baby pictures with me and the ball in my hand. And the house that I grew up in Richmond Hill, Queens, we had a basket in the backyard. So I was always, shooting on the back. The rim was low when I was a little kid, and as I got older, the rim became regulation. So I've always been a hoop junkie. Played CYO basketball. So the first team I ever played on, I was in the 5th grade, and I played at St. Mary's Gate of Heaven, which actually wasn't my parish. I went to St. Teresa of Avila in South Ozone Park, but at that time, my school didn't even have a CYO team. So I wound up playing for St. Mary's Gate of Heaven for 2 years, 5th and 6th grade. Then in 7th grade, I actually played for my school team. And then in 8th grade, I wound up playing for Christ the King Elementary School. So, I was big into AAU, and then I played in a lot of, summer league tournaments. Craig Keys, who's still a very influential youth basketball coach, was one of my primary youth coaches growing up. And then I wound up going to Archbishop Malloy High School. And high school was difficult for me because I just had a lot going on, just personally, which was affecting, me academically. So I bounced around a lot and attended 5 different high schools in 5 years, and wasn't really able to really gain my footing and have any type of academic success until my senior year of high school, where I went away to boarding school at Cheshire Academy in Connecticut. And that's really where, my life turned around, and I wound up graduating there with second honors and getting a 4-year scholarship to play Division II basketball at St. Michael's College in Vermont. And it was just a great setup for me there, almost, being able to be like a big fish in a small pond, not that I was a great player, but it was just a great fit for me. And, wound up graduating there as the school's all-time assist leader. And, a few other records. I know that, I was top 1 or 2 in all-time 3-point field goal percentage, and top 1 or 2 in career free throw percentage, top 3 in steals. I was able to get inducted into the college's Athletic Hall of Fame in 2009. And it was just a great playing opportunity. So, that's probably, everything from youth through college.
What I took most from that was that, of course, right, you have all these records, and you explained that at the end, but at the beginning, right, the first thing you spoke about was the fit that you had with the school. And I imagine Big Apple basketball, it's a big thing you stress to your players, that you have all these guys that are saying, I want to go D1, I want to go to this school, I want to go to this big school, and they're looking at it for the name or for whatever other reason. How important is it from what you've seen over the last few decades of watching these players go on to play at certain schools, that how important is fit in that whole process?
Yeah, fit is very important. And I think a lot of it comes down to, being smart about, making your decision, and one of the things I always tell players is to strive to play Division I. That should be the goal. The goal should be, trying to play in the NBA. Like you want to set the bar high. You want to be great. You want to be the best that you can be. And if you're able to make the NBA, if you're able to make Division I, even if you're able to get a college scholarship or you wind up playing Division III, the goal is to really set the bar high. But at the end of the day, I think it's important not to be so unrealistic that you turn down opportunities that can be good for you when you wind up chasing a dream, but then you might miss opportunities along the way. So for me, the way that I wound up at St. Michael's, was that, I wanted to go Division I. And St. Michael's, quite honestly, was actually, so I had schools in terms of Division I interests, but the reality was nobody offered me a scholarship. And even when you talk about recruiting, a lot of people don't understand that just because you're being recruited by a school doesn't necessarily mean they're going to offer you a scholarship. So I was being recruited by Division I schools, and St. Michael's College was the only Division II school that offered me a scholarship. So I really was trying to weigh, do I want to wait and try to see if I might get an offer from some of these Division I schools, or do I want to take the sure thing? And I think, again, for me, for my own personal experience, because I had really just been bouncing around a lot, from high school, I was even at a place psychologically where I was just tired of running around. I was tired of transferring. I was tired of getting kicked out of schools. Like, I was tired of even having instability. And that's part of what led to my reason as far as like going to St. Michael's and even staying there, because even as I, in the early part of my career, I had opportunities to transfer. But, again, because of my background and my own personal experience, I didn't want to go through the same transfer and all this stuff that I've been doing in high school. So that's why I just said it wound up being a great fit for me. But that's, things that, I recommend to parents and players all the time is, again, strive for the best. But at the end of the day, I advise, but it's up to them, because some people might say, look, I'd rather go JUCO and try to go Division I than to just take this scholarship. But I just try to advise and allow people to understand the significance of all the pros and cons and allowing them to make their own decisions. But for me, taking that Division II scholarship was the best thing I could have ever done.
I love hearing that. It's something. It's funny. Coach McGrain says it all the time. I hear him talk about it to seniors all the time. Is go to a school that if basketball maybe wasn't an option, like let's say something like what we just saw with COVID, you'd still enjoy going to school there. Make sure it's the right fit and all that stuff. And it's right. It's important to keep those lessons in. And maybe right after school, you still kind of pursued that passion for basketball. Maybe if it wasn't on the court. And I wanted to kind of ask you a little bit about stuff like being a video editor, commentating, and some of the things you did right after school. And after like video editing is a big thing that I do, but watching what you did for WNBC and those are the news stations. What were you really doing in that to kind of keep yourself still involved in the game?
Yeah, so those opportunities really just fell in my lap. I was a broadcast journalism major in school. So, I knew that I enjoyed the television, the radio, the media, the talking, the opportunities to be around the game. But, like a lot of college seniors, I was unsure about my future. From the time that I graduated, I didn't have a job. So, I'm just sending out resumes, hoping to get a job, first of all. So what wound up happening was my first job out of college wound up being with the New York State Department of Labor, which had nothing to do with anything of interest of mine. And I was really able to get plugged in with that because my father was working for the New York State Department of Labor. So I did that job for 6 months. And ironically, my job at the New York State Department of Labor was to actually help people get jobs. So while I was there working for the New York State Department of Labor, I was actually using the database looking for jobs for myself, So through a relationship, and actually, I'm sure you're familiar with Bill Raftery, who's one of the top sports commentators and analysts out. So his daughter and I wound up going to Cheshire Academy together. So I got a chance to know him through my relationship with his daughter. And actually, when I first got out of school, he used to have a sports broadcasting camp at Montclair State. So I remember he actually called me on the 4th of July of 1995, right after I got out of college. And he invited me to attend this sports broadcasting camp for free. He told me he'd cover, all I had to do is just get out there to Montclair State. And he basically gave me a scholarship, put me up in the dorm. And then from that experience, I was able to meet a gentleman by the name of Bob Wolf, who was a legendary sports commentator. And through that connection, Bob helped me get my first television job with a company called New Sport, which was owned and operated by Cablevision. And that was like my first opportunity getting involved in sports television. So this was like the spring of 96. So I had almost been out of college for about 9 to 10 months before I got my first job. And my job was a logger at that time, which what I would do is I'd go to work, I'd watch all the professional games, I'd take notes on everything that happened, and then I'd give it to the editors, and the editors would edit highlights for our sports show. And then I graduated to becoming an editor. And then I wound up getting a job at News 12 Long Island editing. And then next thing you know, I got a job at New York One News, and then NBA Entertainment, and CNN, and WNBC and WABC. And it was great. And then the other thing that happened is right after I got out of school in 95 and 96, the University of Vermont, which was about 5 minutes from where I went to college, offered me an opportunity to be their color commentator for their road games. So again, now I'm only 1 year out of college, and my first game I'm doing for the University of Vermont was at Marist College. So I traveled with their men's team. I did all of their road games with the exception of games in like New Hampshire and Maine, but everything from Boston down to Maryland. So, I did that for about 10 years, just gaining a lot of experience. And then that was kind of like how I operated. I did full-time video editing work. And then during the college basketball season, I would travel and cover games. And it was just a great space to be in terms of transitioning from a college student athlete where I'm still involved in sports. I'm still around the game. I get to talk. I'm getting paid for it. I get to travel. I'm meeting all these great people. And then I was getting better, in terms of my overall skill set. So it was just like, it was like a young guy's dream. They always say that college is the best 4 years of your life. But I remember that when I graduated and had these opportunities and I moved back to New York City, I said, oh, no. These 4 years after college are my best 4 years right now.
I'm looking forward to those. I still have a year to get to those last 4 years of college, 4 years after college, but I'll make sure to enjoy them once I get there.
Yeah, you don't have to study and you're making money.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Hey, and for me, I had my own apartment. So I was just like, oh man, like this is heaven.
Definitely sounds like a lot. Right in New York, definitely sounds like a lot of fun. And you're doing. And the biggest thing though is that you're doing what you love in doing basketball, right? It's just, even if it's not maybe the main thing that you're doing, it's still the context of it's what you're watching, it's what you're being a part of. And I'm curious, right? Because the training's been a big thing. What you're doing now was that always what you're doing from the start? Did it take some time for you while broadcasting to get into everything when it comes to training and being around players?
Yep. So the way that started was with Big Apple basketball. So again, just to kind of give you a time frame, I graduated college in 95. I started working in the industry in 96. And then in 1998, I got involved playing on a pro touring team. It was called the DC Explorers. And what that was we travel around and play different colleges, and then we'd get paid to play. So the colleges would pay DC Explorers. DC Explorers would pay us as far as players. And I did that for 1 year in 98. And then, began to think like, man, like, I can do this. So in 99, I created Big Apple Basketball. And what Big Apple Basketball first started out was a pro touring team where it was myself and a lot of my friends who had played at UConn and, in the Atlantic 10, and I had a couple of former NBA players. I created a team based upon my network of friends, and we travel around and play Division I schools. And the way that I came up with the name Big Apple Basketball was because I knew that we were going to be traveling, and I wanted a name that really signified where we were from. So I knew no matter where we travel, if we said the name of our program and name of our team is Big Apple Basketball, people would automatically know we were from New York City. And what happened was that turned into me creating additional programs around Big Apple basketball. So then it branched off from just being a touring team to begin doing basketball training and workouts, to helping players get overseas jobs. So when I first started my real training and everything I was doing Big Apple basketball in the beginning, it was really essentially just for pro players. And then what I began to do around 2003 was start to build out programs for high school players and younger kids. And then and then the model, I just kind of took the same model that I was doing with the pro and overseas players and started doing with younger players.
It's funny. So I didn't mention this to you earlier, but when I was 11 years old, one of my first introductions to basketball, of course, maybe it was with the local CYO or Greek league teams, but also with Big Apple basketball. My mother had one of her coworkers had recommended to her in the city, and I was like one of the first things I ever gone to. And I was like, oh, okay, wow, like maybe I'm into this basketball thing. And it took a few more years after that for me to really fall in love with it, but that was maybe one of my first introductions to it. It's great. It's amazing how not just maybe I didn't even know that it was maybe outside of New York City, right? You're traveling with the team, and people are like, oh, Big Apple basketball, and that's another way for people to kind of be around the game and to appreciate it. So that's really cool thinking about that. So and you mentioned how it's kind of grown to where it is now. It started off as a travel team, and it's evolved into you're doing all these clinics and things like that. I mean, what I thought was really cool maybe is the inclusion with things like the NBA has also evolved with the G League and the Junior NBA, and obviously you winning Junior NBA Coach of the Year. How has Big Apple basketball maybe grown to be incorporated with so many other programs and continue growing?
Yeah, I mean, that's just been a true blessing. And, I'm a firm believer that when you do things with a good motive and proper intention, that opportunities will attract themselves to you. And I think, it's good to go out and seek things, but I think that people also notice good people and they notice quality work. So, with each of those two things, with the Junior NBA Coach of the Year, never in my wildest dreams that, I begin to start coaching kids to think about getting an award or getting my own personal satisfaction. Everything that I did, was about trying to help players get exposure for college scholarships. I mean, it was like literally that simple, to try to create different programs and different events and try to use my gift through the game of basketball to try to impart as much wisdom to people to really try to help catapult them into their lifelong dreams. So with that, the junior NBA experience was just something where, I got nominated by people who, local people who have been involved with me, who've just, been appreciative of the work that I've done in helping them. And then, through the nomination, next thing, every couple of weeks, I'm getting a call back. Hey, Jason, you're one of the, you're Junior Knicks Coach of the Year. Hey, Jason, you're a semifinalist for the Junior NBA Coach of the Year. Hey, Jason, you're a finalist. Hey, Jason, we want to interview you. Hey, Jason, we're going to fly you out to Chicago. And then I'm sitting there, hey, next thing you know, hey, Jason, you're the Junior NBA Coach of the Year. It's just like stuff was just moving, and then, being able to just, be involved with the Junior Knicks has just been amazing. But again, I think that, people who are in certain positions is almost very similar to what I do. Like I've been blessed to be able to have these people, help me in the same fashion that I've created Big Apple basketball to help others.
It's incredible, right? How it all kind of comes full circle, where you're helping other. You've kind of given so much to where now it's all coming full circle, and you've built that huge network in basketball. And looking at your LinkedIn, right, which is how maybe we first got in touch, even though meeting at Xavier from before, I noticed that the word consultants on there 13 times. When I commend that the word consultants on there a lot, and it's obviously because you have this wide network where people, right, you're maybe the bridge between whether it's Big Out basketball and so many other things, or the Junior NBA and so many other things. I mean, what does that role as a consultant in the basketball world really mean?
I mean, exactly what you just said. And again, one of the things that I enjoy about my role with Big Apple basketball is that we and myself are just a basketball resource for any and everything. So when people say to me, well, what do you do? What do you do 9 to 5 when you're not doing your events and you're not doing training? And the best way to describe it would almost be like, I'm a basketball 311 operator, where the 311 operator, every time you pick up the phone, you have no idea what the other person on the other end is going to ask. But it's your job to point them in the right direction, whether they're trying to find out, do I have to pay the parking meter today? or how do I get here? I mean, it could be the most random things. And that's literally how my phone rings every day. How I get emails is literally any and everything from professional basketball to low-level basketball. It can be, an NBA team coming into New York City. They're playing the Knicks, and all of a sudden, my phone is ringing. The garden isn't available. Our hotel is here. Can you help us find a place to practice in 2 hours? This is how I'm a resource. To, it can be somebody calling, my child, can you help us find a boarding school? To, something where, there's a kid who just got out of prison, and the only thing that this kid gravitates to is basketball. Can you talk to this kid to try to help them and get them on the right track? To, to helping parents who are going through their own things and need help now. I mean, literally, it could be, a parent calling. I'm going, and you sit there, and it's almost like what do they call it? Like a therapist. I'm going through this divorce with my significant other. I have my child. I need help, and then the other, and then like you wind up listening to their marital problems, really trying to figure out a way to help the kid through. I mean, that's what I said. I mean, it's literally any and everything, all things basketball. And then sometimes, because we're the name Big Apple, I get random calls. Like, people will call me and think that, I'll say Big Apple basketball, and they say, "Oh, this isn't Big Apple bagels." No, this is Big Apple basketball. Sometimes people will call me Big Apple basketball. How many elephants are you gonna have? And I'm like, what? Oh, this isn't Big Apple circus. No, this is Big Apple basketball. So now, then I get, like, again, I mean, every day, anything with the word Big Apple, my phone is ringing. So it's just, I mean, some of it is funny, but you kind of get a sense of what I talk about, like literally. That is my job, to be a resource. And it's beyond New York City. Like right before I was talking to you, I was on the phone with parents in Dallas, Texas. I'm on the phone with international people. I mean, it's just literally any and everything, all things basketball.
I love that, because
on all levels, on all levels as well.
Oh, so cool, right? And thinking about just how your life kind of both revolves around the game, and it's obviously something that you're passionate about, but also that everyone looks at you and goes, okay, that's the guy, right? That's the basketball guy, whatever you want to put in front of it. That's the guy we have to go to with basketball problem. Jason's the man. So that's got to be super cool. And kind of being that 301 is just a funny thing to think about, but also cool, whether it's USA basketball, the TBT, right? All these different things that look at you for the answers on all things basketball. That's definitely really awesome to think about. And I do have one last question that Coach from Grand made sure I had to ask you. What's the most free throws you've ever made in a row?
132.
Was that at a camp, a clinic? Where did that happen?
No, so you know what? That's a great question. So I still work out regularly, but it started when I was in college. So whenever I work out, and especially when I was in college, I'd always finish my workout. Well, you know what? Throughout every drill that I did, I could never advance to the next drill until I made 10 free throws in a row. So that was how I did. I do a drill, make 10 free throws in a row, go to the next drill, do a drill. So if I made 9 and I missed, I had to stay at the line as long as until I made 10 in a row. But then what I would do is I would always finish my workout by having to make 10 in a row. The only difference is that at the end of the workout, once I made 10 in a row, then I just shoot until I missed, to just see whatever I could make. And, I get to 50, it's like, oh, let me just keep going. And sometimes I'd literally be rebounding by myself. Sometimes I'd have other people. But when I made 132, as you say that, I was actually at my school, and it was a basketball camp that I was working. And it was kind of like during lunchtime, and I started shooting free throws. And then I'd made so many that lunch was over and kids were coming back in. But, I'd probably say I've made over 100 free throws, 15, 20 times in my life, and then I've probably, made 99 and missed probably about another 5 or 6 times. But yeah, but my personal high was 132.
That's awesome. And obviously remembering you making free throws at the Xavier camp, we couldn't exactly remember how many it was. It definitely was a lot though. And maybe getting some of us to try and some failed, some kind of got it. So it's definitely fun thinking about
that day I probably got into the 70. I feel like, matter of fact, I think it was exactly 70. I think I made 70 and missed.
Must have been, right? And then definitely everyone's sitting there hoping, everyone's cheering, screaming in your ear, waiting for you to finally miss one. Yes. But definitely just fun thing about all that. I mean, how the fact that we're talking about that and it happened all the, before COVID, a couple of years ago, it's crazy to think about how it all comes full circle. Now we're on the show together and obviously can't wait to have you back maybe for a camp in the coming years or whenever that's able to all open up. So, I mean, overall, just looking at your whole basketball story, kind of, being the 311 number for so many people and obviously all the great stuff you do with Big Apple basketball. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. And Jason, I really want to thank you for coming on. This was a great conversation. And I personally learned a lot from it because it's awesome talking to someone whose life revolves around the game and who just personifies it the way you do.
No, I appreciate it because, it's a blessing to even be considered, to be on your show. I think you do a great job. I don't even want to say you have a bright future because I just feel like, with what you're doing with this and then your coaching, you kind of remind me of me. Like, you're taking advantage of so many different opportunities around the game that you're not even just pigeonholing yourself. And I can tell you have a lot of talent. You've done your research, your questions are good. You're still in college at Baruch, you're still coaching. So, I mean, it's beautiful to even see you in this space, and I appreciate you even thinking of me.
Thanks for listening to Gen Z Hoops. Make sure to follow, like, and subscribe on Instagram, LinkedIn, and all major social media platforms at Gen Z Hoops. You can tune in and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and every other podcast platform on the planet. Get ready for the next episode.